Hello everybody, Lord Almighty here. Today is Sunday, September 15th, 2024, and I am once again in pursuit of the elusive New Jersey snakehead. This is probably going to be the last time I go for snakeheads this year because they're definitely a warm water fish and the waters are starting to cool off in the state with the lower evening temperatures. So whether I get one or not, I'm probably not gonna try for them again until next year. And I'm here at what is essentially just a culvert right next to a very busy highway, which from what I'm coming to find out is exactly the place you would expect to find snakeheads. They do not gravitate towards glamorous habitat like trout do. So I'm gonna start out with some moving baits like this chatterbait, and I'm gonna see if there's any aggressive fish around. And if that doesn't work, I've got some soft plastics that I can hop along the bottom, and we'll see if today's the day. Definitely running out of chances this year, so I hope it happens today. But then again, that's what I've hoped every time I've gone for snakehead, and it hasn't happened yet. I'm starting to feel like I'm not fishing for snakehead so much as a white whale. Well, I can definitely tell the tide is going out. All those pads over there, they were completely underwater about 15 minutes ago. I don't know how tide affects these fish, or if it does at all. That's one more unanswered question I have about them. I have a lot of unanswered questions about them. Like, I've read a lot about what kind of lures they prefer, but still kind of fuzzy on what kind of presentations they like. Do they like it fast? Do they like it slow? Do they like it erratic? Do they gravitate, you know, more towards bright colors or darker colors? There's still a lot I don't know. I'm just gonna have to keep going after them, I think. You know, there's only so much information that you can get from the internet and from, you know, listening to other people talk about them. There's no substitute for on-the-water experience. And a lot of times, it's really by chance that you figure something out. But the more you fish, the more chances you create. So maybe I'll stumble onto something. That's the hope that keeps me coming after these things. If I just keep at it, I'll figure something out. That might have been a hit. That didn't feel like ticking against no leaf. Still don't know if it was for sure a snakehead. Could have been a bass. I have seen some juvenile bass swimming around. But my hopes are high now. Alright, well, after fishing with the chatterbait and then a weedless frog and getting a maybe bite, I think it's time to go for the finesse stuff. And nothing more finesse than a wacky rig Senko. And I'm going with the 4-inch because I feel like the 5 and 6-inch ones have been overdone. I know a lot of people like throwing the 5 and 6-inch ones, and those absolutely will catch fish. But I feel like if you're really trying to finesse them, the 4-inch is a better bet. So that's what I got tied on. We'll see what happens. Fish on. Okay, okay. I mean, am I disappointed? Yeah, but it is a fish. All right, buddy, back you go. And maybe that means I'm on the right track with the wacky rig. Fish. Get up. Oof. Well, how can I possibly be disappointed about this? That is a legit bass. He was shallow too. He was probably in less than a foot and a half. Nice. He took my worm, but that's an even trade. All right. Still no snakehead, but that'll certainly lift your spirits. Oh, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Big school of juvenile bass right there. Probably a dozen of them. Still haven't seen a snakehead though. And as this water gets lower with the tide, the fact that I'm not seeing any is a little worrying. Starting to think maybe they're not here, at least not now. Well guys, if I were fishing for bass, I'd be tempted to stay here a little bit longer, because I've definitely seen plenty of bass here. But it's a little bit light on the snakehead front, at least today it is. So I'm gonna bail and I'm gonna hit another spot before I lose daylight. On the plus side, found a new bass fishing spot. Sit tight and I will see you in a couple of seconds. All right, well, here we are at the second and probably final spot of the day. You may recognize this as the spot where my snakehead search began. What seems like ages ago, but it was really only like maybe a month and a half. And I'm gonna stick with the Senko for the time being, although I have moved up to a 6-inch version. And we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I know there's snakeheads here. Ooh, did you see that? I have no idea what that was, but I know what I hope it is. Just working this over the top of that grass. Well, the sun is setting on the day, as are my chances of catching a snakehead this year. So let's take a moment to reflect on what we have experienced in our search for these creatures. They are not easy. If you think you can just find where the snakeheads are and just show up and catch them, you are mistaken. You got to put your time in. You got to work for these fish. They're just like any other fish. There are times when they just won't bite. There are times when you won't even see any. So you just gotta be persistent and stay with it. They are definitely not the indiscriminate eating machines the mainstream media would have you believe. They can be very finicky, and they can be very hard to locate. So I'm definitely going to keep that in mind for next year. See, an amazing thing about a place like this is there could be a snakehead anywhere in here. The bad thing about a place like this is there could literally be a snakehead anywhere. Unless you cover every square inch of a place like this, you might not put your lure in front of a fish's face. So it's all about just putting your time in and casting and just having the confidence that sooner or later you're gonna hook up. So far that hasn't happened yet, but I know for a fact that they're here. So nothing to do but chucking and winding. Fish on. Okay. Okay. No last minute heroics. That's a chunky bass though. It's a real nice looking fish. I wish it was a little longer and more snake-like, but hey, I'm never gonna turn my nose up at a bass. Well, everybody, that is gonna do it for today, and my goal of catching a snakehead remains unmet. But this has been a fantastic experience. I've loved doing this. It's so much fun targeting a species that you're essentially starting from zero. Other than knowing they exist and knowing approximately where they're located, I knew nothing about snakeheads. But by doing some research and by going out and targeting these fish, I learned a lot. And I feel like next year I'll be able to hit the ground running, and maybe I'll finally be able to land one of those snaky bastards. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next adventure.